Welcome to the Angels Win podcast with former Angels broadcaster Victor Rojas, featuring Geoff Stoddart and Chuck Richter. And now it's time to talk about some baseball. Victor, take it away.
Thanks a lot, Mattingly. This is episode number 25 of the Angels Win podcast. I'm Victor Rojas, along with Geoff Stoddart and Chuck Richter. Glad you could join us here on this podcast, this off-season hot stove / podcast that we're excited to bring you. And as you, we usually have a cup with us, and we're usually drinking some sort of alcohol. Mine is typically vodka. Jeff's usually drinking some wine or some cheap beer, and then Chuck Richter's usually, slumming it with some free whiskey from somebody who's pitching. So welcome to our podcast. That's what we're doing. So cheers. It's been a couple of weeks since we did our last show, and a lot of stuff has happened as far as the Angels are concerned. The coaching staff after Ron Washington was hired, so on and so forth. So to kind of get you up to speed before the winter meetings kick off a week from Monday.
Yeah, I think it was the day after we recorded our podcast that Ron got hired, and in the subsequent couple weeks since then, he's started to kind of round out his staff. Maybe not a lot of the names that we had talked about. We were talking about a lot of, the former Angels from the 2000 aughts and tens. Those couple of former Angels on the staff, but none from that list. Chuck, what are you thinking so far on what he's got going?
I think he's great. I think he brought over a couple guys from Atlanta. I think Eric Young Jr. is going to be great with the outfield, and Ryan Goins is supposed to be a really good infield coach. So we got that going for us. I've heard really good things about Tim Laker and about Barry and Wright for the pitching coach as well. So far, nothing but positives. Although the offensive coordinator position or title kind of threw me off. And I guess a couple teams have an offensive coordinator, but first I heard of it. So I'm like, do we need to get a defensive coordinator and a special teams coach too?
Yeah.
So what do you know about that role, Victor? Because I'm still a little confused as to what this title is.
I truly have no idea of the genesis of that role. I would assume that it is someone who is going to help put the scouting reports together on a daily basis and kind of give the rundown. It's just just like anything else nowadays, right? You gotta slap a fancy name on it, even though you've been doing it for 100 years. It's like scouts are now called evaluators. They're still scouts, and you still get scouting reports. And I would imagine that it's just kind of game planning for each night. That's what I would imagine an offensive coordinator would be doing. Much like they do in the NFL. I guess the staffs nowadays in baseball in general are large, and so they've tried to. I guess it started really with the hitting side, where you had an assistant hitting coach because one hitting coach wasn't enough to go through 25 guys or 26 guys. Well, not that many offensive players, but you know what I'm talking about from a roster perspective. And then there's other duties that need to be done. So they decided to kind of expand the coaching staff side of things. And oftentimes you would get a scouting report brought down from the general manager's office or assistant GM, and you'd get a hitting coach to put a game plan together for the offense. You get the pitching coach puts a game plan together for the pitchers for that night, the starting pitcher plus whatever relievers might be hot or possibly get hot that night. And what they've done is they try to kind of take a lot of those things off the plate of the main guys. And so you hire these offensive coordinator positions to help facilitate in the dissemination of the information. That's what I'm imagining it would be. I assume that's what it is. But overall, I like the staff. I mean, you knew that Ron Washington was going to put together a staff that kind of mirrored him from an energy perspective, from a teaching perspective, from a leadership perspective. I think you're getting a lot of that in these hires. Barry Enright, obviously, he spent a brief time with the Angels. He's got a lot of time in Mexico as a pitcher, and he's turned into the coaching side. And I think he turned into a very good pupil. And obviously, the interview process went well for him, and that's why he's the Angels' new pitching coach. So I like that idea. I like EY Junior, EY Senior, I should say. I know both of them. EY Senior played for the Rangers when I was broadcasting. Great dude, fantastic coach. Like Wash, guys gravitate toward him. Great personality, outgoing, funny as all heck. He'll take care of the outfield guys. Wash will be the main guy in the infield. I know you mentioned Ryan Goins, but Wash will be the main guy on the infield, and rightfully so. And that's just his nature. He's not a guy that's going to sit back and just throw BP on occasion or sit behind the cage during BP. He's going to be active. He's going to be doing his fungos. He's going to be doing his pregame workouts as usual, and then obviously go into the managing side of things. But overall, you got to be happy if you're an Angels fan that one, I think you got a great manager in Ron Washington, and he's put together one heck of a staff. Bench coach position may or may not go to Clint Hurdle. I think
I'm hoping for that. What about?
Yeah, no doubt.
Is that something?
I agree. I like Clint. I have a lot of respect for him. I've known him for a long time. Obviously, a Royal coming up, and I was a kid, and so I just think that there's a good relationship between Wash and Clint. It goes back to the days when they were in the Mets organization together. And I think Wash has a lot of respect for Clint and what he's accomplished in the game, and they're good friends. And I think as a bench coach, third base coach and bench coach are the two guys that you need on your side that and you trust 100%, because that's where a lot of things can go sideways on you. And I think that's why EY is going to be at third base, and we'll see if Clint gets the job or Clint wants the job. That's the thing. Does Clint want to leave Southwest or the Central Florida, the Gulf Coast of Florida, where he makes his home, and jump back into the fray once again? I think because it's Wash, the odds are pretty good that he'll come out of so-called retirement and jump on board. But I think it would be fantastic if that happened.
Yeah, on that note, Victor, you hear about players that would just run through a wall for Ron Washington. And on that, how much do you think that factors into the Angels now becoming a desired landing spot via free agency for some of these guys that are considering, where before, you're looking at uncertainty. Now you got a really good manager that, from everything I've read, all the accounts, they love playing for this guy. And it's
No, there's no doubt. I think we touched on it maybe in that last episode. I'm not positive. I don't remember exactly if we did, but I remember at one point I touched on the rebranding of the organization that needs to happen, or that needed to happen, and that obviously getting rid of the entire coaching staff and manager is one way of doing that. But if you're going to go that route, you've got to bring someone in that's got the cachet of a Ron Washington to try to help the rebrand. The whole part of the rebrand isn't just to kind of put lipstick on a pig. The whole idea is to get people to buy in, and I think you're seeing that, and I think you will get people that, okay, I like what they're doing. I like the direction they're headed. Maybe give it a second thought. Look, it's not hard to play in Orange County. Okay, I mean, it's just not. The money, a little bit different, obviously, because of the tax bracket that you're obviously in California. But those can be overcome. You can hide in Orange County, if you will, and I don't mean that negatively. I just, it's not the spotlight of New York, or playing for the Cubs, or just anything like that, or St. Louis. You can just go do your thing. So I think it'll help from a fostering relationship standpoint, from a gathering of talent perspective, and maybe had they not made the move to get Wash, or they kept Phil, and it's no knock on Phil, but just saying, if they kept the status quo, and on top of all of the negativity we've heard from a national perspective, from a local perspective about the Angels, I could see where a player, an agent, a family member, a spouse would say, have a little pause of considering the Angels. Now, if you in those situations, you have to grossly overpay to get somebody to come on board. I don't necessarily think you have to do that with the leadership of Ron Washington, plus the coaching staff that he's put together. And one thing I'll add too is that when we're talking about the whole former Angel thing, remember that was stuff that was being floated out there, and guys, I'm sure they talked to, Salmon and Percy and those guys, and I listen. I have a great deal of respect for those individuals. I didn't think Torrey was ready for it. I thought Torrey would be great as a member of the coaching staff. When that got floated out, I'm thinking, oh, that makes sense, but I don't think it was something that needed to be done. That would have been kind of and I think we touched on it last episode, would be kind of a lipstick on a pig scenario of, hey, we're bringing back guys from the 2002 championship team. And while that may be great and meaningful to a particular portion of the fan base, the hardcore fan, overall, I mean, you're trying to get Jordan Montgomery to sign. I mean, why would he care if Darren Ersted's the manager, or you brought back Percival, or whatever the case? And again, it's no disrespect intended to any of those individuals. I think they bring an immense amount of knowledge, expertise, team history. I think, and we've said this before, I think the team needs to do a much better job from an outreach perspective to former players, and bring more former players back into the fold, whether it's through spring training and the like. Bring back a fan fest. I think that absolutely should happen. It's an expense that you could get covered through sponsorship and never have to really pay a dime. Hell, even just getting an airline sponsor to fly guys in, and then you get sponsorship to cover just the cost of the convention center or wherever you want to have it. But I think it's important to have those things so that you reconnect with the community. I think that's why I would want those players back into the fold, and make sure they're seen, make sure they're in uniform, and make sure that their input, and it will happen with Ron Washington, is heard and really kind of let it sink in. And Wash and that staff will take that information from Finley and Fish and all those guys. Wash is that kind of guy. He's an inclusive individual. He wants as much information as possible. And if those guys are going to be around and provide it, I guarantee you he's definitely going to put his arms out and say, hey, come on in. This is what we want. And that's the part of Angels baseball. That's part of the whole rebrand of kind of getting back into the fold. Not just the same 5 or 6 guys that you run out for every single event. That has been the case, and I think that just needs to change.
Yeah. One thought on the offensive coordinator position, and this is a question I guess I have for both of you, as I was trying to make sense of the role myself. Is this a position that reports to Ron? Because it feels like it is. It's part of his staff. And is that different from the data analytics guys that are up in the front office that are reporting to Perry maybe, and that there's potentially a disconnect between the front office and the clubhouse and the manager and coaches, and by having somebody in that role that reports to Ron, that it's one of Ron's guys that's pulling that data together and giving it to him, as opposed to it being sent down from upstairs. Does that sound reasonable, or am I way overthinking this whole thing?
I don't, Chuck. I'll just give you a quick 2 seconds and then run with it. Look, Perry and Ron Washington go back a long way, and I guarantee you that these conversations occurred during the interview process. And even if it falls under the purview of the manager, in this case Ron Washington, in anything that you do, from a leadership perspective, whether it's from the front office down to the clubhouse to the coaches and to the players, or vice versa, you have to have a clear line of communication going both ways. And, Ron Washington has accomplished a lot in this game. Perry has not. Perry has had a terrific career.
Fair.
He's worked his ass off to get to where he's at, and I respect him and admire him for what he's done. But, I mean, when it's all said and done, from a baseball perspective, I'm going to lean on what Wash and that coaching staff and the experience that they've had, both in uniform as players, in uniform as coaches, as scouts, whatever the case may be, more so than I would someone like Perry. And I'd say that about every coaching staff for the most part versus a front office individual. That said, there's a reason why that individual was hired to run the business. And I'm not talking about marketing and sales, the business of baseball, right?
Yeah.
The CEO of baseball, the president, the GM, whatever, they are running the baseball business. And you've got to give credence and say, he is the guy that was chosen by Artie. He's been given this opportunity. And because of that, I've got to listen to the big boss, which is Artie, who's the ultimate decision maker in all of this. Any owner is. And whatever information is flowing down from the front office, I hate the down and up. It's just a literal thing because front office is upstairs, the clubhouse is down in the basement, right? But it's really this. It's a back and forth. It's a highway of information, back and forth, the sharing of ideas. If you're not sharing information and trying to get the best possible information, the best possible results, regardless of who's made the suggestion, gave the idea, provided the information, overall, you cannot win or have a winning culture unless everybody is bought in to the same message. You have to have everybody rowing in the same direction. And I think that's where this mesh of having Perry and Wash, and then obviously under Wash, all these great coaches and connections, I think that's why you feel confident about it. Look, Perry inherited Joe Madden. Didn't work out. Yep. Phil was kind of the Band-Aid approach because of the circumstances. Once you got rid of Joe, Phil was there, and then the team was for sale. So Phil kind of carried over into 23. Now Perry's got his guy. So now it's all on Perry and Ron Washington to right the ship. This is the matchup that, if you're hiring a GM, this is what you would have wanted earlier, right? In the Perry era. But it is what it is. This is where we're at right now, and going forward, this is what you've wanted. And look, if I'm Artie, and I'm not, but if that's how I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's what you want. He's your guy. Now, it's time to crank, because now you're going to be judged. There's no excuses. No, I'm not. The team's not for sale, and you don't have you're not saddled with a guy you don't want. Now it's here you go. Now it's on Artie to loosen the purse strings, to go get the people that you want to turn this around as quickly as possible. And it's Perry's job and Ron Washington's job to kind of get those players in here. And once they're in, to turn things around as quickly as possible. Chuck, I'm sorry.
No, that's good. One thing that I thought of initially when I thought of this role was that it could be just like an offensive coordinator in football, right? They got so many different angles and views on the screens above, right? And whether, just in a booth or whatever, that they could actually call down to Wash or the hitting coach and say, hey, we got this going on with the pitcher. He's hitting these, where the coaching staff and the manager may not be able to see that from the dugout view. Maybe Tim Laker from above with different angles and views and stuff can see something both on the pitching side, the defensive side, and a hitter's setup and trends and things that are going on with views from.
I don't think that's allowed. I don't think you can have an eye in the sky. But I'm not positive. For some reason, that sticks out. I'll see if I can find something.
Okay.
But anything that happens would be happening from the clubhouse. And I think this is more of a pregame prep. I see where you're going with it, and I get it. I don't know, other than because we're perched from a broadcast perspective, right? I don't know that I can get a true sense of what a pitcher is doing from that seat. I could see defense. I could see, base running clearly. I can get, some advantage of that, that higher angled view, the high home view, if you will. But from a pitching perspective, you almost have to be behind the plate to do that. And I just don't think that is allowed. I want to say that was brought up at some point in discussions. We were talking about the collective bargaining agreement. I may be drunk, but I just don't think that's allowed.
It's a little early for that.
It's almost 8 o'clock Eastern time. Yeah, exactly.
It's a little late not to be. Yeah, exactly. No, but I really think that I do believe that Ron Washington is gonna that's gonna attract some players via free agency. I really do. Just from just the comments and the glowing reviews that you hear from former players that have played with him. So that's my hope. Because you've seen a lot of players. I know that you mentioned Orange County. It's a great place to live, great place to play. But you see a lot of these big name players want to play out east in Philadelphia, and New York, and Boston. So,
well, I think that a lot of that has to do with family, winning, the opportunity to win, so on and so forth. So I just, when you look at, what like the Phillies are doing, they wasted no time in re-signing Aaron Nola, and I think that's what championship. Well, that's Dave Dombrowski's MO, always has been from the White Sox to the Expos to the Marlins and so on and so forth to Detroit to Boston to Philadelphia. That's exactly what Dave Dombrowski's done. He knows what he wants. He goes out and gets it. He likes power arms and he likes Aaron Nola. Aaron wanted to stay there. Let's get it done. Why waste time? Why screw around getting deep into an offseason and start getting other teams involved, driving up the price artificially when you've got a guy, you know what you want, you want him, so just lock it down. And I guess in Nola's case, I know the Atlanta Braves were hot on him, and the last thing you'd want to do is lose him to a division rival. So, I think that's why it's appealing to players and agents to seek out those type of teams, right? The teams, the guys that are aggressive in going after free agents, especially if you're on their short list. And it's because they're going to get things done. There's going to be circumstances, obviously, any number of scenarios where you've got a plan A, B, and C, and plan B is knocking at your door, but you haven't seen plan A through yet. And you probably have a sense of whether it's going or not. And if you see plan B get signed, it's because they don't feel plan A worked out, or they don't think it's going to work out. So it's a fun mind game. It's the beauty of the hot stove. But to your point about the East Coast, I don't think it's necessarily the East Coast. I think it's just guys want to win. They see sure. the excitement of the offseason, of the postseason, I should say, and they want to be a part of that. And look, there aren't too many guys. There's some that maybe have the athletic ability, but just want to hide and collect their check. And hey, if we win, great. If not, no big deal. But a good chunk of guys they want to be competitive. They want to win. They want to be playing for something, and give themselves the best opportunity to do so, wherever that may be.
Yeah. I think maybe as we transition from the coaching staff to players, and who we think that the team needs to go after, a nice bridge to that might be one of the quotes that came up from Bo Porter as it related to Anthony Rendon. And this was actually called out by somebody from our mailbag. Terry from Prescott asked, do you think the hiring of Bo Porter is to right the Rendon ship, since Porter has known him since he was 13 years old? And watching that interview, I thought it was interesting that Bo kind of called out that he has known Anthony that long. Not to diminish any of his other accomplishments or skill sets as a coach, as a leader, but how much do you think that may have played into to his hiring, if at all?
Go ahead, Chuck.
I mean, what do they got to lose? I mean, they got to salvage Anthony Rendon somehow, right? I mean, he's been a disaster his entire contract. So, number one, he's got to stay healthy, though. I don't care how many guys that have mentored you your whole life and are good friends that have taught you up. And if you can't stay on the field, it's pointless. It's not going to, so he's got to stay healthy. He's got to stay on the field. He's got to get that drive back, too, I feel like. He's got to, hopefully, he's strengthening his body and putting himself through a really good training program this offseason to come to spring training fully healthy or in the best shape of his life, as a lot of the players say.
Every year.
I mean, I don't want to say that he was only hired for that because I think he has some knowledge. Obviously, he was a manager, right? So, I mean, it's Ron Washington's guy. We'll see.
That comment, was it not made on right before he was hired or near the time he was hired on MLB Network, correct?
Yes.
And it was something to the effect of that he's known him for a long time. And refresh my memory because I do have a point to make here.
So the quote was, because I actually wrote it down. What he said was, someone needs to pull him into a room and sit him down and say, listen, it's very unfortunate where we're at with your contract, the number of games you've missed. Do not add gasoline to the fire with these inflammatory comments you're making day in and day out.
Okay, here's I have a great deal of respect for Bo Porter and what he's accomplished in the game. And this is where I don't believe anybody said anything about this that I saw soon after those comments were made. If you've known a kid since he was 13 and you see that kid acting out the way he did, not once, not twice, 3 times, 4 times throughout the course of the year, did you ever pick up the phone to call the kid you've known since he was 13 to tell him to knock it off? Like, it's great to say these things in hindsight, because hindsight's always going to be 20/20. But if you cared that much about the individual that you've known since you were 13, well, why didn't you make the call during the summer when he was popping off to the media and digging himself into this hole? That's what I would have done. I mean, that's what I think anybody, when you're talking about an individual you've known and you see things going south, and clearly that's what he meant by the comment, that, it's just going to keep going south on you if you keep doing these things, then why didn't you put a stop to it when it was happening? That's the only thing that I have to say about that comment. It was odd timing. I don't know if he was interviewing for the position at the time. It's kind of this gray area where, you're working on MLB Network and you're being an analyst, and then you're also interviewing for a job, and you're talking about an individual that's playing on the team for which you're interviewing a job for. So it's just, I just thought that's the first thing that I thought when I heard that quote, and that I heard his name associated with the Angels and Wash, is, well, why didn't you say anything?
Right.
Why didn't you tell him? Like, maybe if you had called during the summer, it wouldn't have snowballed,
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm just playing devil's advocate on that. Look, it was a cute soundbite. Let's just put it that way. Great. That's all it was. Because there's no meaning behind it. Because if you did give a shit, you should have made the call.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. True friends will tell you the truth and rebuke you when you need it.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yep.
All right.
So, guys, I gotta say something before. I know that we're transitioning into the hot stove talk, but it seems like if you read social media that Shohei Ohtani to the Dodgers is a foregone conclusion. What do you guys think about that?
Seemed like today the Cubs are planning to make a serious north of $500 million offer, according to some reports I saw today.
Yeah, and yesterday, Howie Rose, the play-by-play guy for the Mets, said that the deal might be done by the end of the day. And when everybody jumped all over him, he was quick to point out that he used the word might.
Yeah.
I wonder how many new followers he got after that tweet.
There's a writer in New York, Andrew Marchand, who covers sports media, and typically when individuals try to or do break news or comment something about sports media, he usually has this snarky kind of tweet that like everyone wants to cover sports media, or everyone wants to be in sports media. I was waiting for that comment when I saw the Howie thing. I'm like, either you know something or you don't. And I love Howie, great dude. Love his broadcasts on the Mets. It's like when you hit send on that one, like is it like sent? Shit, I shouldn't have sent that. Maybe I should have paid for the blue check mark so I could delete that tweet.
It's okay to delete. Don't double down by saying that you use the word might. It's like, come on, is that really reporting now? Is I'm hearing or sources are saying, some people are talking about. It's like, well, who?
That's just gonna get worse as we get closer to the winter meetings next week, or a week from Monday they start. It's just going to get worse and worse. I think someone put out today, rumor has it that Shohei Ohtani had breakfast this morning, and he just may have lunch as well.
Jeez.
Some people are saying that may be followed by dinner.
Yeah. That's only if there's a mystery meal that kind of gets into the negotiations.
Right.
Oh, gosh.
I don't know what to think about it. I don't know that we know anything more about what's going on with him than we did on episode 1 of this podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have, and by the way, tip of the cap to his camp. I don't know that there's ever been a camp that is more locked down and, nothing leaks out than theirs. Everything is speculation. Absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And I think it seems like anybody that is saying or reporting is all bullshit. Like nobody knows anything really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. I'll be honest with you. When I saw the Howie tweet yesterday, I thought to myself, well, the only team that would be, pulling that off right now would be like the Angels, right? Because of the familiarity, the proximity. It's just like that's the only. I can't imagine a new team in the last week, 10 days has wowed. Put on the show, dog and pony show for Shohei in this camp. I guess it's very possible, but that's exactly immediately went through my head. Man, I'm like, wonder if the Angels. Now that would make sense. The whole rebranding, right? Here's we're on Washington, the staff. Oh, by the way, we re-signed Shohei to jumpstart the winter meetings. But we'll see how it all plays out. But the Dodger thing that who was it? Somebody said that they were going to acquire Trout and sign Shohei or whatever.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
that was laughable.
Great.
Yeah.
And then the day after,
I'd do it if I'm the Angels. If I get Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman back,
The day after the Angels release their giveaway schedule, or at least part of it for next year, and half of it is all Trout gear. And I'm thinking, you're not doing that if he's on the block. But
right.
All right,
and also people thought because Otani wasn't in any of those giveaways that he's gone. I'm like, guys, he's not on the frickin' 40-man roster anymore.
Right.
He's a free agent. And any team that's got a free agent is running through the same scenario.
And you can add him back in, or anybody else that they sign, to a promotional giveaway later. So,
no doubt.
But, everybody's talking about Otani to the Dodgers. The Cubs, maybe number 2. I'm saving all these receipts on social media, man. I hope to God we resign them, the Angels resign them, and I'm just going to put these guys on blast.
Because you never hold any grudges, Chuck.
No,
Never.
Ever.
No.
Italians would never, right?
Ever.
Yeah.
What else you got, Geoff Stoddart?
All right, Chuck, you've been going through the free agent list and through our roster. Who do we need? Who are we going after? What are your what are your picks? How is this team going to turn the corner and make it happen? We got our new captain, our new leader. There's somebody in charge of the ship that we're all happy about. Who are the people that are going to be rowing for him? Like, what do we need?
Well, I think we talked about this before, Victor, and Josh Hader, I think, is a guy that I think the Angels should sign. They really need to bolster the back end of their bullpen. Carlos Estevez was great in the first half. He was a disaster in the second half. We got some good young arms, Soriano, Joyce, but they really need to. I mean, we got guys that aren't able to go, 6 innings. Canning he throws a lot of pitches. Sandoval the same. You never know what you're going to get from Tyler Anderson. Same with Detmers. There's no consistency in any of the guys right now in the rotation, and you're looking at a guy like Chase Silseth, who really is the only guy that kind of stood out, and he really didn't pitch the whole season either. So you can't put him you can't pencil him as the number one guy. I think that there's going to be a trade. I think really the only way to get if they don't, obviously if they sign Otani, he's not going to be able to pitch this next season.
Right.
But so no matter what, you do need to get a frontline guy. The Angels have a lot of number 3s and guys that could be number 2s. I mean, Sandoval 2 seasons ago was a legit number 2. I mean, he was amazing. Detmers was a great number 3. Tyler Anderson had one of those seasons, ERA in the 250, 260 for the Dodgers.
Just real quick, Patrick had a good season. He had a season similar to that of a number 2. He wasn't a number 2. He's not a number 2.
Right.
He's not. You have a staff of 3, 4s, and 5s.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Just because you have an outlier season doesn't make them, you don't become just an ace overnight.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Progress, right?
And that's really my point being is that they don't have a frontline guy going into next season because Otani, even if they sign him, he's not going to pitch. So you got to get. I'm thinking maybe Tyler Glasnow. I mean, he's a guy. There's some other guys maybe to. I don't know. I think Yamamoto is going to be north of $250 million. I don't know. I mean, he's won 3 Japanese Cy Youngs in a row in Japan. He's got great stuff. Wouldn't it just be a dream if they were able to get him and Otani? But it's a pipe dream also. So I think they need to load up the bullpen. I think their offense is fine. I think there's 2 guys you absolutely cannot sign. Blake Snell, I've changed my mind on him because, again, you're having another guy like Sandoval, Detmers, Canning that only go 5 innings, right?
Yep.
And it's just going to tax your bullpen over time. So I want a guy that's going to give me some solid 6, 7 innings, consistently throughout the season. And I think they need to go. It's going to suck because they don't got much to trade in terms of the farm system, but they do got guys like Luis Rengifo. Hopefully they can sell high on him. Brandon Drury has got 1 year, but you're not going to get a cost-controlled, pitcher for Brandon Drury for 1 season, right?
You're not going to get much for Brandon Drury.
Right. So I think Luis
package him with somebody else.
You would. Yeah. So essentially, you'd have to package him and a Sandoval to get a better pitcher. But you could slot in Rengifo in Drury's spot at second base and just hope that he's consistent throughout the season. And you talked about this many times, Victor, where you see spurts of Rengifo that look good, but, he starts the year off really slow. He picks it up later on. So that's my take.
I'm looking at Spot Rack's calculations as far as the team payroll and taking into account what pre-arbitration dollars are, the players that you have, arbitration bumps and salaries, guys that will automatically get a bump, kind of Luis Rengifo, Taylor Ward, Patrick Sandoval, so on and so forth, Griffin Canning as well. And it looks as if, just by, again, calculation-wise, about $106 million of competitive balance tax space available. Because if you look at, lockdown salaries right now, 38 to Rendon, 35 for DeTrouty, Tyler Anderson 13, Brandon Drury 8.5, Stassi 7, Estevez at 6.7, and Fletch at 6, right? And then you've got the arbitration guys, then you got pre-arbitration guys. So how do you divvy up if you're going to go butt up against the salary cap, right? The tax space without going over. Let's assume for 2024 purposes, Shohei is a $35 million player as a DH. See, to me, it's a tough pill to swallow because Rendon's making 38, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's only justifiable if that 35 for 24 bumps up to 45 for the next X amount of years. I'm just throwing out numbers. I have no idea what he's going to get. I'm just throwing that out there.
Sure.
So just for argument's sake, hell, even if you round it to 40, let's just say 40. So now you've got 60 million roughly to play with. How are you going to use that 60 million? I mean, do you, if you sign a Josh Hader, he's going to cost you what, 20 per?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Was he a 20-60 guy, or I'm sorry, a 360 guy, 3 years, 60 million?
Yep.
I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. As a matter of fact, I can take a look here real quick.
While you're looking that up, the other guy that I mentioned, Jeff, I mentioned two guys that I want to stay away from, Blake Snell and then Cody Bellinger. If the Angels cannot re-sign Otani and he leaves, I think it would be a disaster to sign Bellinger to replace him offensively. I think they should just go with Jorge Soler, maybe do like a platoon or something at DH. You're going to get some power from those type of guys for much, much cheaper. Bellinger had 3 disastrous years prior to this last season with the Cubs. And his swing is long. I mean, his exit velocities were down this past year, but his 2-strike approach was better. So I don't know. I mean, I'd stay away from those two guys. Go ahead, Victor.
Oops, I think you're on mute.
Yep. You're on mute, Victor.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do that when I cough. I apologize. They have him at a $17.5 million. From an average, from a market value perspective, and I'm looking at some of the other guys that were signed. Liam Hendricks was 18 per, 3 years, 54, and he was 31 years old. Kenley Jansen got 232 at 35 years of age. Ryan Presley got 2 years, 30. And then, of course, Edwin Diaz making $20 million with the Mets, although he was on the shelf last year. So he's going to be 30. So next year will be age 30 year. So Edwin Diaz would be the youngest of the. So, I mean, I would value him in that kind of 18 to 20 range, maybe it's 18 and a half over 3. They're saying 5 years. I can't give a closer 5 years. I just can't.
No.
I just can't.
No.
I give him 3. I'd rather pay a little bit more for 3 than to stretch it out over 5. But that's just me. But I like him. I like him from an anchoring perspective. I'd also go. I really liked what Jordan Montgomery did for the Rangers. Left-handed starter. So I mean, if you get a chance to sign Otani, you get Hader on the back end. You get another starting pitcher, whether it's via trade or Jordan Montgomery, something like that, or even add to the bullpen. Instead, if you get Shohei, you maybe go get Jordan Hicks to add some arm strength to the the bullpen as well.
Yeah.
And then you can play a little bit with the offensive side. Then you see what you can do from a trade perspective. But we'll see how it all plays out. To be perfectly honest, I mean, we just got to. There's going to be a domino that falls. Look, Aaron Nola has kind of set the starting pitching market right now at $24 million per.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll see how that all plays out. See what Jordan's camp thinks and what he's going to get. And Snell, obviously, with a couple of Cy Youngs under his belt, he's going to demand a big hefty price tag too. And but I'm like you. I want guys that can work deep into. I want the horses that can work deep into games. And if not, you better get some power arms to shorten the game up in the backside in the bullpen. So yeah, I think if you get a Hader and a big arm like Hicks or something like that to go with Estevez and Joyce, then all of a sudden you're like Soriano. I mean, you're like, all right, I'll take my chances.
I like that.
Do you think that Wash has the mindset where he's going to come in and push our existing pitchers to go longer and not have that 90 to 100 pitch count and then yank them no matter what's going on in the game or how they're pitching or how they look? Is he more of that mindset?
He's a feel guy. He's going to watch the game. The game's going to tell him and will dictate to him how he's going to manage on a particular basis, particular game, particular inning, particular at-bat. I trust him wholeheartly in that regard. Look, is there a manager? Did Bruce Bochy screw up some games this year? Yeah, of course. Every person who has the responsibility of making, lineups and decisions on a daily basis is going to make mistakes. Whether you left somebody in too long or you pulled them too quickly, whatever the case may be. But I trust in Wash to be able to go ahead and make those decisions. So I think he's going to take the information at hand, but he and I think that's why guys love who he is as a person, as a coach and a leader, is that he really knows his players and he pushes the envelope. He wants his players to be honest with him. He doesn't care about that false bravado stuff. He doesn't need you to be pounding your chest and I want to stay in. The stuff's going to let him know whether or not you belong in there. And then he's going to look into your eyes and be able to tell if you're BSing him, And I think that's the beauty of having someone like Wash. And he's going to stick by it. And if he screws it up, Wash is going to sit there and he's going to own it. You're not going to. Let me tell you something right now. You're not going to have any boring post-game press conferences. You will get actual information.
I cannot wait.
And breakdowns. And he will point the finger at himself. And he is the biggest cheerleader of his team that you will see, and he is the most critical individual of himself that you will see. So you'll run the spectrum, and I think that's why I'm excited about it.
On the post game press conferences, Socha, I'm a big Socha fan, but he went on and on about turning the page and one game at a time, and that's great, and I think that's good for the players, right? But they were boring press conferences because but I am looking forward to, for the first time since maybe Gene Mock, to actually listen intently to these post-game, news conferences with the manager.
Yeah,
he is a riot.
And if he does a manager show, on radio before the game, he's not going to show you his cards, but he's just a fun listen. Great storyteller.
He
a lot of experience.
Absolutely.
He is.
If I remember correctly, you guys, he was, he came out of the Royals Academy. Ewing Kauffman had the Royals Academy in the 70s, and it was to take kids, underprivileged kids, and teach them the game of baseball. Frank White came out of the academy.
Oh, Frank White.
Ron Washington was in the academy. Wash was a catcher.
Really?
If I remember correctly.
Wow.
Wow.
So you had a little wash as a catcher, in the Royals Academy with gear on.
Wow.
He's a stud.
What do you
Stud.
weigh, about 145 at that point?
Soaking wet. Soaking wet with gear on. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Hey, back to Otani. I know I just tweeted this out the other day, but if anybody's going to know anything, it's the security guards, right, Victor?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But he's already been to Angels. He's already been to Angel Stadium. He doesn't need to take pictures in the parking lot with the big A or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's
But
right.
if you're fans of other teams, check on the security guards stadium parking lots.
There you go.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to wrap, so.
Yeah. UL, by the way, UL Washington came out of the Royals Academy as well. Remember UL with the toothpick?
UL, that's right.
UL.
There we go.
Gosh, the Royals had some great play. That rivalry between the Royals and the Cardinals, the speedsters that they had, Willie Wilson, and then you got McGee, and my gosh, they had so many. I love the speed that they had on both of those teams. That rivalry they had, Missouri.
Yeah. 140 pound Ron Washington.
There you go.
18 years old, the inaugural class. The inaugural class of the Kansas City Royals Baseball Academy, expecting to be a catcher. Yeah.
I even gave him 5 pounds.
Wow.
All right. Well, we said we were going to wrap this a little earlier than normal. Yep. Victor and I both have kids that are in for college, and tonight's their last night before they head back. Any last thoughts, Chuck?
No, I think it's going to be pretty quiet until the winter meetings. That's my take. But like you said earlier, nobody knows anything, dude. It's been all quiet on the Angels front and everywhere else, really.
Yeah.
So
you can actually say the movie name. It's All Quiet on the Western Front.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great movie, by the way, if you have a chance to see it.
Oh, yeah.
Final thoughts, Victor?
No, I need more vodka. That's
All
about
right.
it. Yeah, I'm tapped.
Well, I just refilled what I want.
How about this before we wrap? How was everybody's Thanksgiving?
Good. A lot of turkey, a lot of food.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was great. It was at my sister's, and my mom passed away about 7-8 years ago, and I told my sister this was the best holiday I think we've had since Mom passed. So it was.
Oh, that's great.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Praying for
That's
you
good.
and your family as always, Jeff, and and Chuck. I know I saw a picture of the anniversary of your dad's passing as well. So, that's this time of year. It's always you're thankful to be around your friends and family, and there's a lot of people too that have a lot of heartache that they deal with. These, especially Thanksgiving, and then you get into the Christmas time. So, never easy.
No. Yeah, Thanksgiving was rough for the 3 years after my dad passed, but we celebrate him now, and it's a great time. Yep.
Good.
Indeed.
Gentlemen, a pleasure as always.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Until next time, everyone. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you for listening to the Angels Win podcast with Victor Rojas, Chuck Richter, and Geoff Stoddart. Go Halos and drive home safely.
Say goodbye.